All right, we'll get started with our planning board meeting. So I will call to order the planning board meeting of November 20th, 2023 at 5:32 p.m. As you know, there's a number of meetings tonight. This is the planning board one, so this with respect to motions and voting, this is members of planning board, Councillor Drawn, Councillor Morrison, Councillor Snow. So I'll begin by calling for a motion to approve the planning board agenda as presented. Councillor Duran, second. Councillor Morrison, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll carry on to our land acknowledgement. We do a land acknowledgement at every council meeting. We acknowledge that the land upon which we gather is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. Epikway is covered by the historic treaties of peace and friendship. We pay our respects to the indigenous Mi'kmaq people who have occupied this island for 12,000 years past, present, and future. Any members of planning board or members of council who are sitting with us here tonight have a conflict of interest to declare with respect to any item before the planning board? Hearing none, we'll carry on. Item number 5 has been withdrawn by the applicant, so we pass through that one. As I understand, then, if the applicant wishes down the road to make another application for discretionary use with respect to the previous approval, they would have to start again from the beginning of the process. And item 6, and this is where I'll pass it over to Councillor Duran. Councillor?
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. One item this evening on the Planning Board is 530 Central Street and 383 Sherbrooke Road, official plan and zoning amendments. The supporting explanation. Purpose of the official plan and zoning amendment is to allow multi-unit buildings, i.e. semi-detached, row or townhouse and or apartments. Background, an application was received from Enterprise Venture Group, Inc. for 3 portions of PID number 663211. Portion 1, 530 Central Street, to amend the city official plan land use from commercial land use to residential land use, and to amend the zoning bylaw from service commercial C2 zone to high density residential R4 zone. Portion 2, 530 Central Street, to amend the zoning bylaw from single family residential to high density residential. And portion 3, 383 Sherbrooke Road, to amend the zoning bylaw from single family residential R1 zone to high density residential R4 zone. The purpose of the zoning amendment is to allow low, medium, or high density housing in the proposed R4 zone. A public meeting was held on November 7th, 2023, and council gave first reading on the same date. Report under section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw. When planning board reviews a zoning bylaw amendment, it has to consider the following general criteria as applicable. A, conformity with all requirements of this bylaw. Staff comment, any proposed development can or will conform to the R4 or applicable development standards of the housing being developed. And B, conformity with the official plan. Staff comment, the application conforms to the official plan, future land use plan, Schedule B of the official plan, as the subject properties are designated as residential land use on the future land use plan, which is Schedule B of the official plan. The application must conform to the official plan text, Schedule A, as per council's policies set out in section 5.22 of the official plan text, which is below. The proposed amendments have no impact on the Parks and Green Space Plan. And that's section 5.2.2, location of high density housing. I will read that section into the record. Council intentions about locating high density housing are important to residents concerned about potential location of row houses and apartment buildings into their predominantly low density neighborhoods. To help allay these concerns, council lays out specific policies below on where they may allow future high density housing, some of which elaborate on their foregoing policies for special planning and development areas. That location criteria is as follows. Council's criteria for locating high density housing in the city of Summerside include the desirability of infilling properties which are already partly developed for higher density housing, the desirability of locating high density housing close to jobs, community facilities and services, and of promoting pedestrian access, opportunities for maximizing the number of opportunities for scenic views through higher density and taller residential buildings, but with protection of adequate view planes, Benefits of locating high-density housing in difficult-to-service areas so that they can help distribute expensive development costs among more users. Opportunities for innovative mixes of higher-density housing with other residential development in CDAs. Opportunities for recycling older, non-heritage residential properties with higher density development. Opportunities for apartments in residential or commercial use buildings. And avoidance of negative economic and physical impacts on surrounding land uses, whether existing or proposed. Council's objective is to encourage high-density housing in specific areas. The following are Council's statements of policy. 1, to promote high-density housing on properties already partly developed for high-density housing. 2, consider applications for high-density housing in the following situations. 3, a mix of housing types in CDAs. 4, areas presently occupied by conforming mobile home parks. See Council Policy 5.3.2.5. 5, rezonings in areas presently designated for medium-density R3 zone residential use. 6, areas immediately north of the downtown, defined as Notre Dame Street to the north, Granville Street to the east, Heather Moyse Drive to the south, and Duke Street to the west, subject to no harmful impacts on local heritage housing within residential / commercial buildings. 7, downtown D zone, urban core area, all districts. 8, city arterial or collector roads as referenced in section 7.1 and figure 7-1. And 9, consider applications for high-density housing in other areas with careful consideration of council's location criteria listed above. Moving on, continuing rather with the criteria. C, suitability of the site for the proposed development. Staff comment, this site is suitable for high-density residential land use. The location abuts a city collector street, Central Street, and an arterial road, Sherbrooke Road / Route 2. D, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses. Staff comment, the land to the west is designated as agricultural land use. The land use to the north is commercial. The land use to the east and south is a low-density land use. The proposed high-density land use is compatible subject to council's policies in section 5.2.2. E, any comments from residents or other interested persons? Staff comment, a public meeting was held on November 7th, 2023. The public meeting notice was advertised in the October 25th edition of The Guardian. 18 letters were mailed to 12 property owners. The applicant representative, Glenn Amu, provided an overview of the proposed development and intent for the lands being considered for rezoning. No concept plan was presented. However, prior to development, the developer will be required to provide a concept plan for the entire development. Should a major subdivision process be required, the major subdivision would require preliminary approval from council. Jiri Rambusek, 531 Central Street, spoke and stated a concept plan should be presented in order for anyone to make an informed decision. Mr. Rambusek noted that the R4 zone would allow a group home as of right, so he is opposed as he would not want a group home in the area. Myron Boyce, 529 Central Street, asked if the development would be served with on-site septic as there is no city sewer in this area. Mr. Boyce also noted that the R4 zone would allow a group home as of right, so he is opposed as he would not want a group home in this area. Concerns or matters raised from the public meeting have been addressed throughout this report. F, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements. Staff comment, there is an existing city water main on Central Street that fronts portion 1 and portion 2, 530 Central Street, and this water main is adequate to service the property. The water main does not front portion 3, 383 Sherbrooke Road. The developer would be responsible for all costs associated with the design and installation of water mains to serve portion 3. There are no sewer services for the subject properties. The developer would be responsible for all costs associated with the design and installation of sewer mains to serve the properties, including a sewer main installation along the Sherbrooke Road and connected to the Granville Street lift station. All designs would need to be to the City of Summerside standard specifications. There's no storm infrastructure in this area, and the future development will be required to design a storm system for the property. There is an existing drainage way and pond along the northern part of portion 1 and 3, which can be used to drain the future storm system. All design would need to be completed to the City of Summerside standard specifications. Electrical power grid infrastructure can expand into the proposed R4 high-density development of the area indicated for initial phases of development, but grid infrastructure upgrades are anticipated for the combination of this and other previously approved developments. Part 1 of F, distribution circuit capacity. Current distribution circuit with other previously approved building permit development plans is forecast to be at 77% capacity with upgrades needed before 2031. Pending pace of development within this subject property, distribution circuit upgrades may be required sooner than the 2031 forecast. And 2, substation bay capacity. Current relevant substation bay is at 45% capacity. Other plans are forecast to bring this to 100% by 2029, requiring substation upgrades prior. Substation upgrades take an anticipated 3 to 4 year cycle given current design and procurement lead times of specialty equipment, such as the need to begin by 2025, 2026. Substation upgrades for this area are currently in the 10-year utility plan to keep up with development needs, but are subject to municipal annual budget approvals. Pending pace of development within this large high-density subject property and other developments within relevant portions of the city, substation upgrades may be required sooner than currently forecast. G, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally. Staff comment, accesses for the subject properties will need to be from Central Street. The access must be a minimum of 80 meters from the south edge of Sherbrooke Road to reduce conflict point of vehicles entering right turn lane onto Central Street from Sherbrooke Road. Currently, there is no pedestrian access along this section of Central Street. The closest sidewalk stops at the intersection of Walker Avenue and Central Street. The storm system along this area is open ditch and would need to be infilled and a storm system installed to accommodate a sidewalk installation. H, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources. Staff comment, city staff are aware of potential environmental areas at north ends of portion 1 and 3. The property owner or developer will be required to have the environmental area delineated by the Department of Environment, Energy, and Climate Action and shown on proposed site plans upon submission for development. There are no impacts on scenic and heritage resources. I, impacts on city finances and budgets. Staff comment, upgrading one bay of the substation is anticipated as a $1.5 to $2 million project. Though it adds capacity to multiple areas of the city for new development and electrification of existing areas of the city, oil to heat pumps and other electric heat. J, other matters as specified in this bylaw, there are none. And K, other matters as considered relevant. Staff comment, staff have noted that concept plans can be perceived as the application, when in fact the application is a zoning amendment. The application can propose any use in the proposed zone, and development layouts or designs are subject to change. Recommendations, city staff support the land use and zoning amendments from Enterprise Venture Group, Inc. for 3 portions of PID number 663211 be recommended to be approved by council. As per section 5.10, part B3 of the zoning bylaw, the planning board shall make a recommendation to council on this application before it is approved or denied. The planning board recommendation, whether carried or defeated, will be brought forward to council for a final decision. Planning board recommendation, the application from Enterprise Venture Group, Inc. for 3 portions of PID number 663211. Portion 1, 530 Central Street, to amend the city official plan land use from commercial land use to residential land use, and to amend the zoning bylaw from service commercial C2 zone to high-density residential R4 zone. Portion 2, 530 Central Street, to amend the zoning bylaw from single-family residential to high-density residential. And Portion 3, 383 Sherbrooke Road, to amend the zoning bylaw from single-family residential R1 zone to high-density residential R4 zone, bears the recommendation of the planning board. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. I will, if there's any questions or comments, we'll take them now, otherwise we'll move into the vote. Yes, Deputy Mayor Snow.
A couple comments, maybe a couple questions. So, first of all, I'm glad to see that in the staff comment under other matters that staff noted concept plans because often when we have people in presenting and gallery here asking questions or residents of that area, they always want to see what the plan is for that parcel of land, when really it means absolutely nothing other than a nice to see, because those plans can change. And I think people just don't realize that, so they come in and asking about what's planned for there, where realistically it's R4, and anything that fits under R4 is planned for there potentially. So I'm glad that that's in there. I have a question about this sewer main. So it says including a sewer main installation along Sherbrooke Road. So that's along the highway, correct? I noted one of the residents that live up that way, they had complaints about not being able to get on city sewer, that sort of stuff. Having it run along Sherbrooke Road as opposed to Central Street, that's just where it has to run, or I'm wondering if this development in some way will assist them in then being able to hook into the city sewer system, or it still will not be a
The sewer system probably would run on Central Street and then along Sherbrooke Road over towards at the end of Granville Street, but until we saw where their design was, the properties that they're gonna build directly along Central Street would probably be into a sanitary system on Central Street, but we'd have to wait until we saw what they're, but in general, it can't just get to Central Street, it has to get to the top of the highway and over to Granville Street to get, that's the closest lift station.
Okay. And then the reason why it's, and I think I know the answer to this, but it says PID 633211 Sherbrooke Road, but it's not actually gonna be accessed from Sherbrooke Road, it's probably from Central Street, that's what's in here, right?
So portion 3 will be subdivided.
Yeah.
So the top portion of this property will remain as commercial, which is houses like Campsey's Gardens or whatever
Yep.
this summer, so that'll remain. They're looking at basically subdividing off the back end portion of this, and this portion of this parcel will make it all one big piece of land to develop. It's just that these pieces are all currently different zones.
Okay. And last question I have so the application's from Enterprise Venture Group, and Glenn Amu, is he the developer or is he part of Enterprise Venture Group? And I'm just sort of curious on the application process. Can a developer or a potential purchaser of land come in and ask for a development change prior to purchasing, or how's that work?
So the application was signed by the property owner, and the property owner is not planning on developing it themselves, so they are looking at somebody else
So that's-
purchasing and developing it, and that was why he presented, because he knew what he was presenting.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, that's it.
Thanks to staff for a thorough review of the application, and for the residents for their comments and then attendance at the last meeting. I reviewed all of the requirements here before us, as well as section 5.22, location of high-density housing. I don't see any reasons why I don't see any reasons why this wouldn't fit with the requirements and with our requirements here at the city, so I'll certainly be supporting it. And I don't think I have any questions for staff, except one would be then, I guess it would be at the development agreement stage, where if there were potential time issues with getting infrastructure built up, both from electrical or water, sewer, storm, how would that work if the developer wanted to move ahead with a timeline to get things built within a year? And what control would we have to be able to say, you're gonna have to drag that out a little bit because we need to make sure you get all the infrastructure in place?
Water system is there that they can connect onto. Storm system, they would have to design and connect into the north, which is an existing low area. The sewer, they would have to design on their own schedule and then turn over to us. So the infrastructure being in place, they're responsible to design and build, so they're in control of that. And the electric utility, the staff advised the initial phases, they have enough power and capacity in the area to handle the initial phases. the rest would have to be looked at to maybe accelerate the overall enhancement of that, I'll say, circular area. So the initial part, they had power, so the only one we're really in control of is the electric. The other ones are in control by the developer to suit their own schedule and timing.
Just a question, Aaron. So the developer has to put in the water's there, but he has to put in the sewer, is that correct?
Yes, and if the sewer, in this case, the lift station was gonna benefit more than this property owner, we get into a cost share agreement that if it's gonna benefit an additional 50 acres, we want the one station sized for all of it, and then the utility pays or agrees to pay for that additional, what would come from that additional 50 acres. So this person does not have to pay to service other people's land. But the one station would go in and be designed at the time, and then when the other developments come on, they would be charged those. I think we'd have to get into the details of what's in the water and sewer
Yes.
act.
And so the city would be required to run it from
After
outside
they,
it over to Granville Street?
no, they would be, this developer would be putting the force main and everything over to that existing station, and then it would get split up amongst all property fronters. So then we get back into who could benefit and who could hook onto it, and, yeah.
Okay. I guess we will move on and call for the vote. It was moved by myself again and then seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. It is just a planning board vote, so all in favor on the planning board, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed, so that will go to the final decision, which council will make, I believe. Would it just be at the, could be at the committee of the whole meeting in December, which is the first Tuesday of December at 5:30. I will hand it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Counselor. So I'll adjourn the planning board meeting, and our monthly meeting doesn't start until 6:30, so we have 36 minutes until we resume. So thank you, everyone.
FPI. Think. He called me today and I
All right, we will continue with our meeting. You're good? We're live? Great, thank you, Brian. Good evening, members of the public. Oh, there's nobody here right now, but there's maybe people online. We've had a gap. We had a planning board meeting end early for the first time, so we're obviously making progress. So I will call to order the monthly council meeting of November 20th, 2023 here in the city of Summerside, it being 6:30 p.m. First, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Councillor Snow, second. Councillor McColman, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda will proceed as presented. Is the opportunity for any councillor to identify any potential conflict of interest declaration with respect to anything on the agenda? There being none, we will continue to move along. Before I move into the minutes, just a note, I have a note from both Councillor McDougall and Councillor Adams. Councillor McDougall is in Ottawa representing the Federation of PEI Municipalities at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meetings, and Councillor Adams is flying home with her son and husband, I think from the United States. So they are not able to be with us here this evening and send their regrets. They did send some comments with respect to an item later in the agenda meeting. Moving on to item 2, minutes, approval of the meeting minutes. I will first call for a motion to approve the monthly council meeting minutes of October 16th, 2023. Councillor Cameron, second. Councillor Gallant. All councillors in favor of the minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed or changes? Hearing none, the monthly meeting council minutes of October 16th, 2023 are carried. Next up, approval of meeting minutes. This is the planning board meeting November 7th, 2023. For a motion from a member of planning board to confirm the minutes. Councillor Duran, second. Councillor Morrison. All members of planning board in favor can indicate by saying aye. Aye. Hearing, any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are carried. Committee of the whole meeting minutes of November 7th, 2023. Motion to adopt the minutes as presented. Councillor Gallant, second. Councillor Duran, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the committee of the whole meeting minutes are adopted. 2 left. Minutes of the special council meeting of November 7th, 2023. Motion to approve or adopt the minutes as presented. Councillor Morrison, second from Councillor Cameron. All in favor of adopting the minutes, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the special council meeting minutes are adopted. And last but not least, the minutes of the in-camera meeting as of November 7th, 2023. Motion for approval of adoption of the minutes. Councillor McColman, second. Councillor Snow, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, those are also adopted. I wonder in the future if it is possible, maybe CAO, if you can give us some feedback as to whether I can just do that with a single motion to adopt all of the minutes, at least the minutes that have all of council, and we can maybe separate the planning board meeting minutes. Just, we don't want to turn off, the members of the public turn off their YouTube screens too quickly. Move into item 3, which is accolades and recognition. So at each monthly council meeting, the opportunity for councilors to take a moment to recognize any members of the community that they wanted to do so.
I guess this is sort of a cover all boards, but a number of us attended the Business Excellence Awards that the Chamber put on last Thursday. I think they said it was their largest one that they've ever had, highest number of nominations, and I think it was the first time that they opened up voting to the public. So just wanted to pass on huge congratulations to all the folks that took part in that, both nominated and the winners. And it was a delicious meal as well, so thanks to the COP and everyone that had a hand in putting that on.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a few that I wrote down here today. A couple. One, Hannah Taylor, Summerside resident, won the silver medal for Canada at the Pan Am Games in Chile on November 2nd. Second, Sergeant Dale Cornish won Police Officer of the Year here at the PEI Crime Stoppers Luncheon last week. Also recognize Tanner Duran, the co-chair for the U17 World Hockey Championships, and really the entire board here in Summerside, and then all the volunteers who made such an incredibly successful tournament, not just here in Summerside, but across PEI, happen. And of course, Team White, who stayed, who won the gold medal and also stayed here in Summerside, so that was our sort of one of the two Canadian teams. And the other, there was so many things going on in the last month. The Holland College Hurricanes won the national, won the bronze in the National Collegiate Women's Soccer Championships that was hosted here in Summerside at the same time as the U17 hockey tournament, and that was the first ever medal for a Holland College women's soccer team national championship. So lots on the go and lots of recognition for a variety of folks in and about our community. At this point, we move on to item 4, which is public presentations, petitions, and delegations. And this evening, we're joined by Melanie Bailey from URSA to provide us with a summary of the findings from the check-in survey with PEI's immigrant community from 2023. And I know Councillor Cameron and myself probably have seen variations of this presentation. And after I think we both saw it, we thought this would be a great thing to be able to share with the rest of council. So thank you for coming here today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to come. It is an absolute honor to be able to come and speak on behalf of our immigrant community. A special thank you to Mayor Kuchar, councillors, and city staff for allowing us the chance to be here. A very special thank you of late, Councillor Nick, Mayor Kuchar, Councillor Duran, and Deputy Mayor Snow. You have been instrumental in helping us with a number of our events, being there, supporting, and that's meant a lot. I'm joined here today with Aaron Marr. Aaron Marr is the Director of Programs with Immigrant and Refugee Services Association. Bernadette is at a conference out of province and sends her regrets. Aaron, I'll be doing the presentation, and Aaron is here to support any questions. So with that, we completed our immigrant check-in survey with the immigrant community across Prince Edward Island. There were 501 responses. We were able to review the data and then analyze it based on trends from previous surveys to look at trends that are underway at the moment. First, a huge thank you to the City of Summerside. The last time I was here was in 2010 when Aaron and I were trying to start a very small Summerside satellite office. Gordon will remember those days. He supported us through City Hall. Mike Thasuska was instrumental. You believed in us, even though there were only 7 immigrants in Summerside in 2010. And with that, we began to build the services for the immigrants that were to come. And by 2019, they certainly did, and they continue to come. Next to the picture of the 2010 First Rich Committee is a picture of 2 incredible leaders living in the Summerside area. Emma Nguyen, who you've met, who speaks 3 out of 4 of the most predominant languages in Summerside, and Harleen, who speaks the other predominant language amongst other languages. Not only has Summerside grown with its immigrant community, you have attracted incredible talent. And that culminated in a launch of the brand new Immigrant and Refugee Services Association Summerside office, supported by a number of you here today. Before I move into the survey data, I just want to do a very quick overview of the immigrant and settlement sector. The immigration and settlement sector has a number of immigrant serving organizations. We are a large piece of that puzzle, but there are other very instrumental pieces within that provide specialized services. Traditionally, our core immigrant base was economic immigrants. The Office of Immigration says not over 90% of immigrants coming in as economic immigrants are coming to take a critical labor shortage job: construction, healthcare, bioscience, etc. We also support the humanitarian and refugee intakes and families. PEI Connectors, whom you are now incubating in your office as you did for us, supports the immigrant business entrepreneurs. ASDA, mentioned here, Atlantic Student Development Alliance, is the first stop direct service provider for international students. Altogether, we support each of those clients, but we specialize in different areas. This concept is a new concept where we're looking at how we work more closely with various sectors that interact with the immigrant community. We have always had a very important and treasured relationship with our municipalities. This is where immigrants settle and call home. The provincial government as well, and we have continued to expand to the other sectors that are impacted by immigrants, whether it's our school systems, the mental health sector, the housing sector, and the employers. This is a picture of the incredible, the enormity of what has happened in PEI in the last few years. Pictures of immigrants of all cultures, the municipalities welcoming them, events and activities across PEI. We have truly been enriched by this immigrant community. And the immigrant community feels as though they've been enriched as well. In the survey, some very beautiful comments about how PEI is now home to them, that they love PEI like their hometown, that they've met good people and friendly people, that it's a peaceful and wonderful place to live, that there's less violence. And that really struck me, that comment. What we have here, how valued it is by the immigrant community who love and treasure this place they now call home. It is peaceful, friendly, and safe, and the locals have been very friendly to them. As I move into the survey results, so these were the 2023 survey results. We worked very hard to draw in as many of our predominant immigrant communities. Through the support of survey ambassadors, leaders from cultural communities, we were successful in doubling the survey responses this year, and also by drawing in our predominant cultural communities, which are Vietnam, mainland China, India, Philippines, Iran, Hong Kong, SAR, Nigeria, a very large and upcoming community, Ukraine, Brazil, and then a number of Spanish-speaking countries, which is a very new trend. We're seeing a large number of Spanish-speaking countries, and that is also represented in the survey data. The ages of people that responded ranged from 18 up to 64 years old, with the predominant number of people being in the 35 to 44 age category. We drew in responses from people that have been here less than a year to up to 10 years. And I'd like to start with a success. For every challenge an immigrant faces, there's always somebody that made it through the other side and has succeeded. And I don't want to assume in speaking about the challenges that we aren't doing things right. In the success stories, people talk about, the youth, K-12 education system, how wonderful it is, how well it has supported their children. There are some that are still struggling and can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel yet. There's those that when I ask what is one success, it's the people that help them. It's the immigrant serving organizations, it's the schools, it's the colleges, it's the government services, it's the people that wrap their arms around them in their time of need. And that stands out to them as the one thing that they will take with them forever, that they felt supported when it was needed. They talk about the quality of life and how PEI is their home and they love PEI, that they got their permanent residency. They talk about personal accomplishments, leaving home for the first time, crossing the world and surviving on their own, getting a driver's license, learning house maintenance, owning a home, overcoming COVID times, and at the end of it, that they just survived. For those that struggle, and often in our immigrant community, they think they won't get that professional job again, but many spoke in the survey results and their success story about receiving that successful job in their field, a professional job in their field, that they got a job and they were promoted and valued in the workplace, that they found a home. Don't we all appreciate our home these days? Friends and family. They talked about learning English. They talked about completing education and masters and more personal accomplishments. And of course, the cricket team was mentioned, having their cricket team. The community, local and cultural, we've seen a real strength and a cultural mass of people coming together to support each other. Very vibrant Filipino communities, Vietnamese communities, Chinese communities, and on the list goes. There's still more opportunity though, and what they're seeking is more integration and connection with locals. Businesses, for everyone that is struggling, there are those that made it through. Their businesses are prospering, they're doing well. We have seen stories of businesses that have taken off and flourished and have even given us routes overseas where they've opened a business overseas. And I'm going to go back to the list. When I summarized all of what people said was their one success, this was the chart that was created. And when I put that through a word cloud, what were the 3 things that define success for an immigrant? And it's probably no different than a Canadian. Job, family, and community. The measure of success is job, our family, and the community around us. So then we looked at the more difficult questions around the difficult challenges. So in August 2023, health or medical concerns accessing healthcare was number 1 again. It grew significantly from the 2021 data from 44% up to 53%. Instability with their job grew slightly from 42% up to 47%. I'll talk more later what that means. Paying mortgage or rent surged from 25% in 2021 to 44% of people struggling with that in 2023. Missing family and friends overseas is a common theme. Finding a place to live increased from 20% up to 25%. The viability of their business is still high at 21%. Learning English, mental health, maintaining healthy relationships, discrimination, and daycare access. And then when we asked immigrants what would help them, and it gave us a sense of what type of programming we should focus on, what type of programming we should do more of or less of. This was very valuable to our immigrant serving sector, where a lot of programs have already pivoted and responded. One is assistance navigating government services and programs. That is something IRSA specializes in through our settlement team. It's continuing to point immigrants back to us and others that can support them navigate services. Number 2 is employment workshops. While there's a lot of workshops underway and a number of immigrant serving organizations that offer employment workshops, we know we need to do more and we need to scale this up because this is a critical need, and we are working on that. Financial literacy and budgeting was number 3, and that was a surprise. We have started to launch some financial literacy workshop series, and some of our partners have as well. Emma told me this all along, and I believed her, but now I see how important it actually is. Number 4 and 5, and this is a job for each of us in any of our work with immigrants, is to help orient them to the Canadian culture and education on the Canadian workplace culture. They're looking for that advice and insight and that mentorship as they navigate a very different culture than their own. Training programs that would bridge them to work in construction, bioscience, or a nursing home, stress management and well-being workshops, winter survival essentials, English tutoring, home maintenance workshops, gardening and lawn care, parenting classes, trauma and grief education. And I read this list here as a way to say, for each of us that has the ability to support training or workshops or education in any of these ways, you are needed. The demand is great. While each of those other questions were multiple choice, very early in the survey, I created an open comment section to ask them, what are your main challenges? And the qualitative analysis of that was, first, housing and cost of living, 2, healthcare, 3, job stability, 4, transit schedule, which is particularly important in Summerside with a number of people going between businesses in Borden and outlying communities while they're living in Summerside. The immigrant community in Summerside has said this is a number 1 priority for them. Mental health, immigration processing delays, youth K-12, their youth well-being, work permit barriers, cost of groceries, etc. 2 of these immigration processing delays and work permit barriers relate to a change in immigration. Around 2019, the change of most immigrants arriving as permanent residents changed to most immigrants arriving as work permits. And this has caused them to lose eligibility for programs like Link language instruction. It's caused them to lose eligibility for special programs for their youth, like autism support or diabetes care. And it means those people that are struggling with the cost of living, who are working and still struggling, now their children have to pay post-secondary international student fees. So with the change, federal change in work permit from the previous permanent residency status has come a host of challenges and ineligibility barriers, which has put a great deal of pressure on the entire sector to try to meet these needs in absence of access to the services immigrants need. And a touch point, a question I've started to ask. Well, I know the immigrant journey is one of resiliency, of incredible strength, and the outcome has the incredible outcome in the immigrant journey is often shown in research with the second generation children who go on to succeed as lawyers and doctors and opening businesses. The immigration journey is a very powerful one, but it is a very difficult journey. Stress and anxiety is a key part of the immigration journey, with 78.5% of immigrants saying that they do experience stress and anxiety. That has increased from the 2021 survey results. Affording mortgage or rent has increased significantly from having challenges with that of 51% in 2021 to surging to 74% in 2023. And of course, that ongoing work of finding friends and connecting with community. All challenges feel better when we have a support network around us. So then I analyzed the data by immigration status, and this is helpful for the immigrants we meet. What status are they in? Are they working? How did they come to Canada? And each of them carries some slight differences in the challenges they face. I'll start with the work permit. I mentioned to you now, most immigrants arrive as a work permit, where before it was permanent resident, and now they struggle with eligibility. So the closed work permit are those arriving to fill critical labor shortages, construction, healthcare, bioscience. They have a job. That closed work permit means they're tied to that job. They can't get another job on the side. And so their top concern, number one, of their most difficult challenge, it's paying mortgage or rent. So that one breadwinner in the family is not able to secure a salary that's allowing them to afford the cost of living. And so they depend on the spouse then, who is on an open work permit, to find a job. The open work permit responses said that their number one challenge is finding or keeping a job. And so there is the pressure within the family that that job is found so that they can help support the family. When we looked at how many people were not employed and needed a job within that open work permit, it was 28%. With all of the immigrants that responded to the survey, it was 14%. So this is the key community that's needing employment support. They're looking for help, number one, with employment workshops, and again, education on Canadian culture, orientation to Canadian culture, English tutoring, and training programs that would bridge them to work in construction, bioscience, or a nursing home. So with this number being twice as much as the other immigrant community, of course, the priority here is to support them in the job search. And most of them come with incredible talent and skills, but those talent and skills don't often meet exactly what is needed here. So PEI has come out with some very innovative, groundbreaking programs. These programs are our youth, our Canadian youth are accessing, our immigrants are accessing, and it's allowing people to bridge to where the work is, in construction, in healthcare, in bioscience. Unfortunately, because of their work permit status, they are not eligible for those programs. So one of our advocacy points is to increase the eligibility to allow this cohort to also access programs that would bridge them to where the critical labor shortage jobs are. International students, This is new. Many years ago, I remember there was a few hundred. I mentioned Atlantic Student Development Alliance was supporting this group. We will provide services when they visit us as well. This cohort has grown from a few hundred to a few thousand. They're here on a study permit. They can work 20 hours a week, and they are struggling to, number one, find or keep a job, 2, pay their mortgage or rent. And these are students that have left home for the first time. They're missing their family and friends overseas. You are now seeing a number of them in Summerside, and these are the experiences that they have. And they, like our other immigrant community, are looking for employment workshops and assistance navigating government services. But unlike the other groups, stress management and well-being workshops was number 3. This community has an incredible amount of stress and struggle in surviving here, going to school, working 20 hours a week, as well financial literacy and budgeting and orientation to Canadian culture. Our business owners, PEI Connectors leads the charge in supporting them. We also support this community as well as their spouses that are looking for a job. Business owners are also on a closed work permit with a spouse looking for a job on an open work permit. In the immigrant business community, 49% of them report that they are having major business challenges. This is no surprise. We have known all along it is very difficult to start a business in Canada, in PEIs. PEI is no different. PEI Connectors and other organizations like ours does whatever we can to support them through it. But being an entrepreneur is a difficult journey. The key advice that was given to us by cultural leaders is focus on the spouse, help that spouse get a job. When that spouse gets a job, she or he can support the family while the immigrant entrepreneur struggles to make a viable business, which can take several years. The challenges they're experiencing with their business are that there are not enough customers. They need more business essentials training. We've been noticing some great work happening through the CBDC, and we're trying to tap our clients into that. They need more business development support. They're struggling with the high rent and tax. They can't get that second job to supplement the income because of their work permit status. The cost of living and interest rates, labor shortages impacting them as well, English, and needing import or export help. These were the most common comments made by the 81 responses that were received from those that own a business. So I mentioned earlier the struggles with the job and insecurity with the job. It's a new trend this year. People are struggling to find a job more than ever. They're not getting enough shifts. And then all the other trends are the same we've always seen. For those that do get professional jobs, there's many others that struggle to get their professional job again in their field. They're struggling with low wages and it's hard to pay bills. They don't have Canadian experience. Their English isn't high enough. Childcare barriers, discrimination at work. Not everyone can do shift work. Transportation are some of the few. The ways that we can help them, us as immigrant serving organizations, again, is around increasing and scaling up employment workshops and to provide as much education as possible on Canadian workplace culture and expectations. As well, any type of training program that will bridge them to where the critical labor shortage jobs are. Youth K-12 took a special place in the survey this year. I had one person ask why were there so many questions this year? And so I'm going to show you a sensitive slide next that relates to the decline in the general population with well-being. Mental health needs have surged since COVID. As well, most alarming in our youth community, the concerning trends that the Kids Help Phone tracks have nearly doubled. From 2021 to 2022, those that are struggling with suicidal thoughts grew from 9% up to 15%. So we know our youth aren't doing well. We know the PEI community and immigrant community at large has an increase in challenges with their well-being. I mean, we're living through wars, we're living through pandemics. This is no surprise. But what we don't know is if our immigrant youth community are doing if their well-being has declined as much. And so while this survey couldn't provide that data that's needed, we are working with the Chief Public Health Office, who is doing a deeper dive into the youth well-being. What I can say is that the adults that responded to the survey and told us how their children were doing, for those that said their child was having a difficult time with their feelings or well-being, which means increased stress, culture shock, avoiding school, talk of self-harm, or other well-being concerns. While there was a large percentage whose parents said they are doing okay, there is another percentage that said their children aren't doing well. Most significant is the kindergarten to grade 3 age, which was a trend that showed up immediately when the survey launched and was sustained, with that being the highest that reported concerns at 21%. All other grade levels from grade 4 up to grade 12 averaged between 14 to 15% of adults that said their children were struggling. As well, we looked at racism. We're aware of some individual cases of racism, and the data showed us that if a child K-12 experiences racism, it's most likely going to happen in school, which is no surprise. Children spend most of their day in schools. But for us to reach immigrant youth with well-being and with racism, the recommendation is then to reach support into schools, all arms, all support into schools. Through my experiences in working with youth, and we were researching mental health, in speaking with those within schools, the data that we have seen is surface level, but the data they're seeing on the ground is extremely alarming. So while I don't know if the immigrant youth are doing as poorly as our Canadian youth have struggled during this time. So 20% have experienced racism in school. Others have, a smaller percentage have experienced it in a variety of other settings. Experiences of discrimination ranged across from kindergarten up to grade 12 at a fairly even rate of incidents. The comments here are sensitive. It just helps make it real in our minds about what's happening. And so racism in school is not just what was in this survey. It was also a doctor in Summerside whose wife called me many years ago to tell me what her son was being called in the school system. So this isn't new. This has been underway for a while. I'm on a national working group where we are talking about incidents of racism in school. PEI is not alone. This is common across Canada. And so how we respond is the question. And one of the findings in the research nationally is there aren't a lot of responses developed. Racism, what children are being called, having their looks questioned, racist remarks, objects thrown at them, words that I can't repeat that you can see here on the list. Incidents of bullying, alongside well-being concerns where children didn't want to go to school, they cried every day, they're struggling to make friends, English isn't going as well as it should. Parents are asking the teachers to be more patient with their children are struggling. The encouraging news is that we've seen a lot of news related to people who have gone into schools, who are working alongside schools. There's a huge initiatives and push to help respond to these needs. So while this is an issue, there is a lot of action that's been underway in response. Something on a lighter note is community impact and social connection. I mentioned earlier jobs, family, and community. The power of community can't be understated. The community impact and social connection is key. I'm going to skip ahead and I'll go back again shortly. I have been amazed. It's very heartwarming to see what's been underway in Charlottetown, in Summerside, in Cornwall, in Stratford, in O'Larry, and every other community in between that I'm not mentioning. Municipalities, mayors, councils, community leaders have gone out of their way to welcome immigrants, join their events, raise national flags with them, and this has touched the hearts of our immigrant community in ways you can't imagine. You see the smiles, you see the various flags. It feels like every week there's another flag raising ceremony, but it has been highly impactful. As well, in Summerside, you recently had some flag raising ceremonies, and So I just really thank you for that. It does mean a lot to our immigrant community. And just you show up. Mayors show up. There's a random walk, and there's Mayor Ogden. We're having a new office launch, and there's Mayor Kuchar, and every mayor and councillor and support in between has done the same thing. And it really means a lot to the immigrant community. They feel supported, they feel welcomed, they feel wanted, they love taking pictures with you. And this has had a huge, huge impact, and I just want to thank you for that. Where we can do more, there's just never enough sports infrastructure. There's sports infrastructure shortages. There's not enough cricket fields, there's not enough indoor soccer, there's not enough outdoor soccer, there's not enough badminton, there's not enough tennis. Swimming classes open, they are signed up, people register for them within 5 minutes, and there's no more access. So there's a huge demand, and this is somewhere that Summerside is much farther ahead. You've got the dome, you have all these abilities to have these sports that immigrants are seeking. So soccer, badminton, basketball, tennis, swimming, cricket, volleyball were the most mentioned sports. But by and large, any activity, group activities, youth activities, winter activities, clubs and groups and sessions and training, these are an opportunity for immigrants to integrate with locals. And it would be very strategic for us while we run a number of events and a lot of other cultural groups run events. Municipalities do draw locals and have very good programming. So the more we can collaborate to get immigrants into the programming that municipalities offer, everything of which is on this list, and however we advertise and however we promote and however we get our clients to these events and activities, that will help complete the social integration piece that is still a gap. We haven't closed the gap on immigrants connecting with locals. The final takeaways I'll leave with you are, first, we're working from an asset base. In working with communities across PEI, I have seen firsthand PEI's strength is caring and committed community leaders, municipal leaders and community leaders. You have made so much of our work possible and why we're even here today and why we even have an office here. These are just some pictures of the various cultural, community, municipal, and provincial leaders coming together, each of whom that was there, has demonstrated an absolute commitment to all residents, to immigrants, and are always going out of their way to do more and do better. The takeaways, when we think, it's kind of 4 buckets of when we think about what the immigrants are seeking, and for the ones that are struggling, what they need help with. The first priority is around the job, the work, their business. The second is around some mentoring and support in navigating government services and accessing English classes and just help with our culture here. The other is around the importance of their family, the people around them, the friends, the community, their children, their schools. And the other is around how they integrate into local community activities and events and stay active for their health, their well-being, and also to develop relationships with PEI residents. And so the final takeaway summary is just that this has been a difficult time we're all living through, and that has meant that an increased level of support has been needed. So when we look at what immigrants, what defines success for them, what supports are needed, it's around how we help with jobs, how we help them bring their family here or support their family members and their children. It's around how we embrace them within the community and support them from within the community. And that they are struggling with very difficult challenges that are no different than any Canadian. We are all struggling with housing and cost of living, healthcare access, some with jobs and transit schedules and mental health and their youth not doing well, and the cost of groceries and financial difficulties and childcare access and the viability of their business and learning English. That's just the very real struggle that an immigrant or a Canadian faces. Some are just further along and doing better along that journey, the immigration journey. The key takeaway, 2 pieces of advice was, There's still so much more we can do in the future to offer a welcoming community, but more important right now, and that speaks to the urgency of survival right now, what is most important right now is helping with what they need to find a job or to help them with their business. Note, once the immediate needs pass, and when asked what would increase their sense of belonging to the community, activities and social connection rise to the top. And the final advice is, the new immigrant just wants guidance and education to understand life here. Please make things easier to understand. So a thank you to each of you and our immigrant community that helped us gather responses, interpret responses, for those at my organization that have supported this work, like Aaron, and to IRCC Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, who funds the project that Emma and I are on and have made this work possible. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Melanie and Aaron. And maybe now just open it up to council for any comments or questions, if that's okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just want to echo Mayor Coacher. Thank you very much. The presentation, absolutely amazing. Findings very clear and precise and easy to understand. So easily understandable why you asked them to come here and present this tonight. It makes a lot of sense. It's easy for us as councillors to look through the information and see where and what we can do as a municipality to make things easier for the immigrant community as they settle and ultimately help our community strive and become a better community overall. So thank you for all your work.
I guess I don't want to sound like a broken record, but thank you guys so much for the information. It's probably the third time that I've seen the information, and it's still like you can sit there and listen time and time again, but there's always something new to take out of it. And I think that I've said it a few times to people in this room that we, as municipal leaders, don't know what other people need because we're not in their bubble, we're in our own bubble. And it's very good to have information presented to us so that we understand the needs of the people that don't necessarily fall into what our confines of the municipality normally is. So I really do appreciate having that information going forward. It really does mean a lot.
Melanie and Aaron, just want to say thank you for your hard work in getting that presentation prepared and then breaking it down for us to really get a handle on some of that information.
This was all Melanie.
What?
This was all Melanie.
But you were there for support.
Always, always there.
I found it very interesting, just even the points that you made about with the youth, K to 12, with the depression and a lot of things like that. And I think you really touched on COVID and a lot of things moving to a new place. All of the things that would just really impact on them at a very young age, and yet they're so resilient, but for that to have that impact. And I think the other thing I picked up was in the summer. I noticed on one of the slides about PEI, something about being the best place in the summer because of the activities and whatnot. So I know that we really try on PEI in Summerside for sure. And I think we can still keep on doing that, but it's really nice to hear it through a different lens of how, you know, people who are starting to come in through the immigration community see it. And I was really glad that you pointed that out. So thank you very much. It was very well done.
Well, yeah, thank you again. Hopefully you can share. I think you've shared that information. Maybe we can send the slide deck around if you send that out, Melanie, and then we can share with council. And I know Councillor Cameron is working with you and all communities here in our community to make sure that we build a more welcoming, diverse, inclusive, accessible community because of how valuable it is for all of us to make sure that we continue to succeed, and particularly well, I think we recognize here the benefits of supporting our newcomer population. One, because I think it's simply the right thing to do, but there certainly is more selfish reason, which is that, and you can see it in your slides, that our newcomer community are younger, are working and are helping fill the labor gaps that we have as we continue to address the demographic challenges that we have here in our community, not just now, but in the years ahead. So it is sobering with respect to the information, particularly about K-12 and young people, but also there's a lot of hope there. And you know, some of the things that I think we'll continue to take away, the importance of social connection and working with spouses as well, not looking at a newcomer as just one individual, but looking at the family unit from the kids and the parents. And I think it's just so interesting you said there were, you had a number of 7 newcomers in Summerside in 2010, which is, so obviously our community continues to evolve and to change in good ways, and we continue to get more ideas and experiences that I think helps improve our cultural fabric and adds a lot to our community. And it's really important to make sure that we're aware of what the challenges are and also what things are that work. And it's great to see some of the things we're doing here are working, and there's lots more to do. So thank you both very much. Really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us this evening.
One of those slides, I just saw a co-op. Is that one of the new businesses that have been started? You went probably about 3 slides back. I saw a co-op. Right there. Is that one of the entrepreneurs that have started their own grocery store?
No, O'Leary put up banners to welcome.
Oh, okay. I just saw that and I got all excited. Thought we could use that here.
There's some construction businesses opening though, quite a few, so if that's anything, yeah. I have the presentation here on the laptop here, so I'll leave it there for you.
Great, that's great. And if you don't mind, can we share that around as well? Yeah, that would be really helpful. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll give you guys a second to pack up there, and we'll sort of continue along with our meeting. And Councillor McColman, I've been to that O'Leary Co-op many times. And I always am hesitant when I get to the cash, because whenever you're at a co-op and you're not a member, you always I feel like you're not supposed to go if you're not a member, but I gotta get some groceries in O'Leary, so. Thank you.
I know we were trying to work through the mayor and O'Leary, trying to get them to do a reach out here with a co-op back a few years ago.
Item 5 is appointment to committees. There are no appointments to committees here this evening, so then we'll move into item 6, which is the introduction and reading of bylaws and resolutions. Councillor Duran, I think you have a handful here, and I will read out a couple H and I, and yourself and Councillor Snow will figure out who does G, and then I think Councillor Snow, you're J and K, is that right? And L, or I, J, K, H, I, J, K, L, and, yeah, J, K, L. It's a big L. Small L. All right, Councillor Duran.
We almost got the whole alphabet there. All right.
Over,
One of these days.
over to you.
All right, I'll just start at the top of the list, I suppose. Resolution COS 23-146, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McColman. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside to amend the future land use plan for PID number 310623 from residential land use to institutional land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking, and parklands for accommodating the development, and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety, and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, and other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that official plan amendment 0343 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted. This bears the recommendation of the planning board meeting held on November 7th, 2023. Official plan amendment 0343 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for PID number 310623, as shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan, is designated as institutional land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation of residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. So resolution COS 23-146, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McCollum, is now on the floor. Are there any further comments from council? Hearing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of said resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. We can move on to the next one. Councillor.
Resolution COS 23-147, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McCollum. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment for PID number 310623 from medium-density residential R3 zone to institutional I zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0344, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at the council meeting held on October 16th, 2023. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety, and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, and other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0344, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. This bears the recommendation of the planning board meeting held on November 7th, 2023. Zoning amendment 0344, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act, RSPEI 1988, Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 310623, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as institutional I zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of medium-density residential R3.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 23-147, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McCollum, is now on the floor. Are there any further comments from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried.
Resolution COS 23-148, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McCollum. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment for PID number 310623 from medium-density residential R3 zone to institutional I zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0344, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0344, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted. There's no Schedule B.
Thank you, Councillor. I was looking. You caught me off guard. Resolution COS 23-148, moved by Councillor Cameron, seconded by Councillor McCollum, is now on the floor. Are there any further comments from council? Hearing none, I'll now call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Councillor?
Resolution COS 23-149, moved by Councillor McCollum, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside to amend the future land use plan, for PID number 310680 from residential land use to institutional land use under the City of Summerside official plan. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking, and parklands for accommodating the development, and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that official plan amendment 0341 to amend the City of Summerside official plan be hereby formally adopted. This bears the recommendation of the planning board meeting held on November 7th, 2023. Official plan amendment 0341 to amend the City of Summerside official plan. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 of the Planning Act RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The land use for PID number 310680, as shown on Schedule B of the future land use plan, is designated as institutional land use, hereby excluding it from its former designation of residential land use under the City of Summerside official plan.
Thank you, Councillor. Resolution COS 23-149, moved by Councillor McColman, second by Councillor Cameron, is now on the floor. Are there any further comments from council? Hearing none, I'll now call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried.
Resolution COS 23-150, moved by Councillor McColman, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment for PID number 310680 from medium-density residential R3 zone to institutional I zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0342, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read a first time at the council meeting held on October 16th, 2023. And whereas in accordance with section 5.7 of the zoning bylaw, council shall consider the following general criteria as applicable: conformity with all requirements of this bylaw, conformity with the official plan, suitability of the site for the proposed development, compatibility of the proposed development with surrounding land uses, including both existing and projected uses, any comments from residents or other interested persons, adequacy of existing water, sewer, road, stormwater, and electrical services, city parking, and parklands for accommodating the development and any projected infrastructure requirements, impacts from the development on pedestrian or vehicular access and safety and on public safety generally, compatibility of the development with environmental, scenic, and heritage resources, impacts on city finances and budgets, other matters as specified in this bylaw, and other matters as considered relevant. Be it resolved that zoning amendment 0342, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby declared as read a second time. This bears the recommendation of the planning board meeting held on November 7th, 2023. Zoning amendment 0342, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Summerside, under authority vested in it by Section 18 and Section 19 of the Planning Act RSPEI 1988 Cap P-8, hereby enacts as follows. The zoning for PID number 310680, shown on Schedule B of the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, is designated as institutional I zone, hereby excluding it from its former designation of medium-density residential R3.
Resolution COS 23-150, moved by Councillor McColman, second by Councillor Cameron, is now on the floor. Are there any comments from council? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Councillor?
Resolution COS 23-151, moved by Councillor McColman, seconded by Councillor Cameron. Whereas an application was initiated by the City of Summerside for a zoning amendment for PID number 310680 from medium-density residential R3 zone to institutional I zone under the City of Summerside zoning bylaw. And whereas zoning bylaw amendment 0342, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, was read and declared as read at two separate meetings of council held on different days, Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment 0342, a bylaw to amend the City of Summerside zoning bylaw, be hereby formally adopted.
Resolution COS 23-151, moved by Councillor McColman, seconded by Councillor Cameron, is on the floor. Are there any comments from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Duran. Moving on to the next item, this is the, is this our Enhanced Culvert Connect Ditch Program policy?
As Bruce calls it, the moose on the table.
That is a new one?
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, it is. So Councillors Snow and Duran, I'm assuming you two coordinated for how you wanted to proceed with this resolution?
Okay. Yes, we coordinated for months. Resolution COS 23-152, moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Mayor Snow. Whereas the City of Summerside has operated cost-share programs offering compensation for residential property owners who filled in ditches connected to their properties. And whereas City Council is desirous of updating and providing an end date for ditch infilling compensation programs, now therefore the Enhanced Culvert Connect program shall replace all predecessor policies and programs and shall operate in accordance with the terms and conditions as set out herein. The Enhanced Culvert Connection Program Policy. Definitions. A, application process means submission of a completed application to the Technical Services Department together with copies of all paid invoices related to and identifying the total cost of the project. B, approved project means a stormwater culvert enhancement project, commonly known as ditch infill, completed to city standards. C, city standards are those requirements set out by staff of Technical Services Department that direct minimum ditch infill standards and which must be followed in order to receive funding through the program. D, funding is the compensation set out in sections 3 and 4. E, the program is the Enhanced Culvert Connect program. F, residential property owner is the individual or individuals and or legal entity or entities named as the owner of the subject property on the city's tax registry. G, subject property is the property for which an application for compensation under the program has been received and which borders a ditch that has been filled at the sole direction of the residential property owner. And H, total cost of the project is the combined total costs, taxes, and fees connected to an approved project. 2, the program replaces all predecessor city-sponsored ditch infill cost and share and or compensation programs. 3, any residential property owner who owned the subject property as of December 31st, 1999 shall be eligible for a culvert infill cost share with the City of Summerside, with the city's maximum contribution being up to 75% of the total cost of the project, or $6,000, whichever is less. 4, any residential property owner who acquired the subject property between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st, 2023 shall be eligible for a culvert infill cost share with the City of Summerside, with the city's maximum contribution being up to 50% of the total cost of the project, or $6,000, whichever is less. 5, property owners who have already received compensation for one or more ditch infill projects for a property under an earlier cost share program through the city are not eligible to receive further compensation for the same property unless the property owner is applying for funding for a new and different approved project. And 6, the program shall be open for applications on December 1st, 2023, and shall close for applications on January 30th, 2026, or on the date when all allotted funding for the program has been allocated to approved applications, whichever first occurs, after which date no further applications will be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, with Resolution COS 23-152 on the floor, moved by Councillor Duran, seconded by Councillor Snow, I'll open the floor up to further discussion or comments from members of council.
I do have a letter from councillors, I guess a joint letter from councillors Adams and McDougall. I can read that now or at the end, okay? Dated November 20th, 2023. Good evening, Your Worship and fellow councillors. A message from Councillor Adams and Councillor McDougall. First of all, we want to apologize for not being in attendance this evening due to prior commitments. We also want to thank the public who came out to support us during the stormwater/ditch infill deliberations and the Stormwater Review Committee for their work. This ditch infill issue has been the moose on the table for every budget since 1999, and we know the resolution this evening will not be satisfactory to everyone. However, as the two councillors that represent the most ditches in their wards and have been longtime supporters of the ditch infill program, we feel that the resolution here this evening is the only option available at this time. We urge all residents who are affected by this resolution to apply as soon as possible. Watch for details on city website and through social media. Sincerely, Councillor Kerry Adams and Councillor Bruce McDougall.
Any further comments from council? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote for Resolution COS 23-152, moved by Councillor Duran, second by Councillor Snow. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Duran. Thank you, Councillor Snow. Thank you, Council.
Your worship, may I make a comment now?
You may, Councillor, of course.
I just have mentioned this to us as councillors, but prior to tonight's vote, I wanted to wait. But publicly, I do want to thank Deputy Mayor Snow and Councillor Duran for taking this on as a project. I know that you both put a great deal of work and effort into it and bringing that information out. I truly believe it's democracy in work. I think we've all had a chance to hear the information, attend the public meetings, hear the debates amongst council, and I really respect the both of you for doing it in such a professional and in a manner that was fair to everyone. And I think we hopefully have reached something that will be helpful to everybody, but help us to move forward with the many, many expenditures that we do have for the city. So thank you on behalf of council.
Thank you, Councillor McColman. Moving on to the next item, Resolution COS 23-153, moved by Councillor Gallant, seconded by Councillor Cameron. This is one I get to read out, I suppose. Whereas the Mayor's Task Force on Attainable Housing had the mandate of bringing forward policy options that can increase supply, density, and variety to meet current and anticipated housing needs in Summerside. And whereas City Council has received and reviewed the final report for the Mayor's Task Force on Attainable Housing. And whereas Council is supportive of the goals and objectives as presented in the report, be it resolved that Council directs staff to begin the process of prioritizing and implementing the recommendations in the report. Schedule will be attached, which is the Mayor's Task Force on Attainable Housing report, and I am not going to read it all in, and we'd be here all night. So with that, Council, the resolution is on the floor. I'll now open the resolution for comments and discussion amongst Council. Hearing none, I will call for a vote with respect to Resolution COS 23-153, moved by Councillor Gallant, second by Councillor Cameron. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, resolution is carried. Next one, Housing Accelerator Fund. One more from me to read in. Resolution COS 23-154, moved by Councillor Gallant, second by Councillor Cameron. Just a note, this resolution has been amended slightly and is different than in your package, and I believe I shared the language with council before, but I want to make sure it's read into the record for members of the public. Whereas City Council has reviewed the City of Summerside application under the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, and whereas Council has reviewed and considered the letter dated November 1st, 2023 from the Honorable Sean Fraser, PCMP, Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, and whereas Council approves of the initiatives in the application and the proposed additions requested by Minister Fraser, be it resolved that Council approves the policy objectives of the City of Summerside application under the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund and authorize City of Summerside staff to enter into an agreement with the Federal Government Housing Accelerator Fund as soon as possible. Resolution COS 23-154 is on the floor. Are there further comments or questions or discussion amongst council? With that, I'll call for a vote on Resolution COS 23-154, moved by Councillor Gallant, seconded by Councillor Cameron. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. And just for a quick note, for members of the public who may be joining us, it's not as though council hasn't had a lot of discussion around these items. So if you had just tuned in for tonight and had not been following with all the previous council meetings, and council has been discussing this at length for a period of time. And the last committee of the whole meeting, we had presentations and discussions on that. So if you're curious for additional insight and thoughts, council, you can always return to the YouTube channel to watch the previous ones or read the minutes at your discretion. I'll now hand it over to Councillor Deputy Mayor, Councillor Snow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight we have the second reading of bylaw CS-38, disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674. These are the properties located in the core block area. As per Municipal Government Act, the bylaw is made valid if A, it is read and formally approved by a majority of council members present and voting on 2 occasions at meetings of the council held on different days. The planned meetings for that to happen is at this meeting and then the October monthly meeting on October 16th. B, copies of the bylaw were made available as part of the meeting package that was posted Friday on our website, and copies are available this evening, so there is no requirement to read the bylaw into the record. So, resolution COS 23-155, moved by myself, Councillor Snow, and seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, Sections 143 and 158, Summerside City Council is required to pass a bylaw when land is transferred below fair market value. And whereas CS-38, disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw was read and approved as first time at council meeting on October 3rd, 2023. Be it resolved that CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw be hereby read a second time. Schedule A, CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw is attached.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. Resolution COS 23-155, moved by Councillor Snow, seconded by Councillor Morrison, is now on the floor. Opportunity for comments, questions, discussion from council. I'll now call for a vote on Resolution COS 23-155, moved by Councillor Snow, seconded by Councillor Morrison. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Councillor Snow.
Resolution COS 23-156, moved by myself, Councillor Corey Snow, and seconded by Councillor Rick Morrison. Whereas pursuant to Municipal Government Act Section 143 and 158, Summerside City Council is required to pass a bylaw when land is transferred below fair market value. And whereas CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw was read and approved as first time at a council meeting on October 3rd, 2023. And whereas CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw was read a second time at this council meeting. Be it resolved, CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw be hereby approved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snow. Resolution COS 23-156, moved by Councillor Snow, seconded by Councillor Morrison, and is on the floor. Any comments from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Councillor Snow.
Resolution COS 23-157, moved by myself, Councillor Snow, and seconded by Councillor Morrison. Whereas pursuant to Municipal Government Act Section 143 and 158, Summerside City Council is required to pass a bylaw when land is transferred below fair market value. And whereas CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw was read and approved at 2 separate meetings of council held on separate days. Be it resolved, CS-38 disposition of PIDs 309690, 309780, 309682, and 309674 bylaw be hereby formally adopted.
Resolution COS 23-157, moved by Councillor Snow, second by Councillor Morrison, is on the floor. Opportunity for comments, questions from council. I'll now call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. Thank you, Councillor Snow. At this point in the evening, we move on to department reports. Councillor McDougall is, as indicated earlier, representing FPIM at the FCM meetings in Ottawa, and I believe Councillor Glant is going to read in his report. Councillor?
Good evening, my colleagues of City Council, to business and residents of the City of Summerside. Reading the report for Councillor McDougall. We are in the process of reviewing our year-to-date results and preparing the trajectory for March 31st, 2024, which will be included in our monthly report for December. Currently, our operating results indicated that we will come up close to budget. The preparation for our 2024-2025 capital and operating budgets will soon begin, and the schedule will be provided once it has been confirmed. We are seeking input on the proposed budgets and are asking residents, businesses, and stakeholders to provide comments on what they would like to see reflected in the upcoming budget. Feedback is being accepted until 12 o'clock on Friday, December the 15th, 2023. Please see our website for a format to submit your input. This form shall be available in the next few days. Hard copies, written submissions can be mailed or dropped off at City Hall, 275 Fitzroy Street, C1N 1H9, to the attention of Kristen Dunsford. Our utilities account receivable as of November 14th, 2023 is as follows. Total overdue balance is $167,900 compared to $205,600 as of October 8th, 2023. Although our total past due has decreased from what we were reporting on October the 8th, the percentages that is greater than 60 days has increased from 11.5% to 13.5%. We strongly encourage utility customers who have received collection notices to contact our office at 902-432-1230 or email customerservice@summerside.ca to address these past due balances to avoid disconnect of your service. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report on Bruce McDougall's behalf and Director of Finance.
Questions, comments from members of council? No, I just have one for the Director of Finance, maybe just more of a note. Are we going to notify members of the public of the opportunity for them to provide feedback in advance of the budget through social media and other channels? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gallant. Now move on to governance. Human Resources, Legal Services Representative, Councillor Cameron. Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's yet another busy month for postings, interviews, and hirings within the city. Recent competitions have led to hiring in the following positions: equipment operator, semi-skilled laborer, industrial electrician for the Sunbank project, wastewater treatment plant operator, temporary aquatics manager, full-time dispatcher. We've also hired a number of assistant lifeguards, part-time front desk, and casual labor for the CUP. Competitions are ongoing for the IT assistant, police constable, and 2 part-time dispatchers. This one's my favorite because it has to do with Halloween. As part of Halloween festivities for staff, pumpkins were provided to departments for decorating, with the electric department submission receiving the most votes. Cultural and fire department received well-deserved honorable mentions for their efforts. So kudos to all the participants for their seasonal spirit. City staff have made donations of 10 blue bags full of winter gear supporting the annual Coats for Kids campaign run by the Boys and Girls Club of Summerside. And Kendra attended an annual labor law conference put on by Lancaster House, receiving fulsome case law updates on a wide range of relevant employment-related issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any questions from council? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next. Municipal Services Representative, Counselor Gallant.
Public Works Water Sewer highlights. Public Works has completed its hot asphalt work for this year, so the asphalt plant is now closed. The new stop signs were added to Jason and Tanton Drive, replacing the old yield sign that was there at the intersection. Public Works has put out public service announcements how the city plow and salt roads and sidewalks and boardwalk during the winter and snow events for public knowledge, as these services will update over the website. Electricity. The downtown Christmas lights is being prepared for installation this week before the Santa Claus Parade on December the 1st, 2023. The Sunbank project is now energized to the project site, and during this month will be coming online, producing solar energy along with the energizing of the battery storage system. The electric utility has been busy over the last few months strengthening the electrical system for this upcoming winter season. Public Works, repairing street signs this month from summer damage and fading letters, supporting Witches on Water Street with traffic control. Street traffic calming was removed from Craig Avenue along with temporary speed bumps. Water and sewer, 2 water breaks were repaired, 1 fire hydrant was repaired, and 3 water service repaired for the month. Traffic poles replaced on Granville Street and Ryan intersection. Street lights at Mackenzie Drive repaired. The Echo Park lightning lights were energized for use. Confirming pedestrian timing at Granville and Ryan Street intersection was done. Boardwalk lights were repaired, and 94 Ottawa Street building lights repaired was completed. Sunbank switching has been done and will be, the official opening will be on December the 8th. Powerline personal effects, assisting with the capital works of the substation, Sunbank pole replacement work, Sunbank circuit and transformer put online. Operational status, the generator ran at 8.1 hours. Renewable energy for the month was 41.6. 90 service calls for electrical customers. 44 new electrical customers were installed, and 13 new poles were installed, and none were removed. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Counselor. Any questions, comments? I also have one more question, I guess it would be for the CAO. On the renewable energy percentages, now, is that renewable energy generated here in Summerside, or would that wouldn't count the remainder from NB Power or its supply mix? When it says renewable energy for the month was 41.6. Do you know if the other?
Wouldn't include anything renewable produced by NB Power. It likely includes the wind energy that we purchased from this.
Right, so just to be clarify then, I guess for members of the public, I guess the remainder of the 41.6, whatever, almost 60%, 59% would then be from NB Power. So NB Power has a supply mix of hydro, nuclear, a number of different things. So in terms of renewable power or energy, sorry, I don't want to confuse power and energy, is yeah, to potentially higher than that, yeah. Great, thank you, Councillor Gallant. Arts, Culture, Diversity, Representative Councillor McColman. Councillor?
Packets are pretty heavy. Been a busy month. I'd like to thank Director Lori Ellis for preparing this report for public hearing. And just the following captures some highlights of Culture Summerside's activity from mid-October to mid-November period. The Ghost Walk, which involved volunteer actors, brought to life the history of Halloween and the darker side of Summerside and island history in the annual Ghost Walk that took place on October 19th. Just under 400 attendees experienced 11 vignettes researched from historic sources and written with all ages in mind. Guided tours of 30-plus people left every 10 minutes, and the feedback received was very positive. The Christmas program for Culture Summerside is now fine-tuning the details of the 2023 Christmas program and exhibition called The Magic of Christmas. This awe-inspiring exhibition is presented at the Lefurgey Cultural Center. The program and exhibition celebrates the history of the long-standing tradition of the Christmas tree. We expect approximately 1,000 visitors made up of school children, teachers, chaperones, and general visitors from all over Prince Edward Island. Archival work, the staff and volunteers are profiling 220 World War I soldiers who are listed on the monument at Memorial Square. This includes research on about a dozen men who served in the United States or British forces that require additional work. When complete, all profiles will be available online for the general public. As well, the 3D and augmented reality experiences. Culture Summerside staff, along with audiovisual professionals and talented volunteers, are developing three-dimensional and augmented reality experiences for our local, visiting, and online audiences. Tours under development include a Christmas holiday experience, an experience on municipal government, and another on early life in the 1900s. Stay tuned for the launch details. Also, I want to point out that Wyatt Heritage Properties Incorporated has been chosen as a finalist of the 2023 Prince Edward Island Arts Award in the Leo Chevalier Cultural Connector of the Year Award category for their role as a champion of the arts and their positive impact on creating access and connections between various communities within the arts and culture sector of the province. I believe it's for the Summerside Arts Festival. The award ceremony for finalists takes place on November 22nd. And that concludes the Culture Summerside report. And on another note in my report, I just want to point out that earlier tonight, I did bring forth some concerns around parking on behalf of the merchants and residents in the downtown core, and I know that people were going to be watching. So I want to let you know that it is, the matter is being assessed by our CAO, Gordon McFarlane, and hopefully we will just get some information on that. And I did point out on behalf, for many councils prior, the downtown parking was extended during the Christmas season by 3 hours. So I believe our CAO, Mr. McFarlane, is going to be looking at that matter and assessing. So that concludes my report, Your Worship.
Any questions from council?
I don't have a question so much as a statement.
Yes,
I went
Counselor?
to the Ghost Walk this year, and I would strongly suggest that everyone attended. It was so well done, very good, and if the Christmas program is even half as good as the Ghost Walk, it's phenomenal. So if you haven't gone, I suggest you go. Anything during spooky season is great.
And another thing, thank you for saying that, Councillor Cameron, for the Christmas tree event. They also, last year, and I don't know what their plans are, but I'm hoping so, they kept it open during the Friday night Yuletide festival, so people could take, you know, advantage of that as well as Holman's Ice Cream. So it was really a gathering place all around that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McColman. Moving on to Technical Services, Representative Councillor Duran. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Another thing I noticed was that you used, Councillor McColman, municipal government and augmented reality in the same sentence, and that is quite common, I think, so. Thank you to Aaron McDonald for preparing the report for this period. The 2023 construction season for city-led capital projects is still continuing, and the construction and the inspection of these jobs will continue through the fall. The paving contract is almost completed. Wilmot Lane widening is almost completed, and a water main looping project is in progress between Tower and Brophy Streets. 22 building permits with a value of just over $21.6 million were issued for the month of October, for a year-to-date total of 179 permits and a value of $90.2 million. The previous high was only $73 million, so that's quite a feat, and we're hoping that we might hit the $100 million mark before the end of the year. It's possible. We issued 2 commercial permits for alterations, 1 permit for a new institutional construction, and on the residential side, we issued permits for 6 semi-detached, 1 3-unit row house, 3 accessory buildings, 2 additions or alterations, 1 sign, 2 decks, and another 2 change of use permits. We also issued partial permits for various stages of 2 apartment buildings, a 59-unit and a 24-unit. Developers are stopping in and speaking to staff for assistance with their proposed projects, and now is also a great time for our citizens to ask for assistance with their projects that they may have still planned for the remainder of 2023. And that's all I have for this month, Your Worship. Thank you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Duran. Moving on to Economic Development and Growth, Representative Mayor, Deputy Mayor Corisno.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following is some of the highlights from the monthly report for economic development. Since our last report, the office has been busy wrapping up some legacy projects, as well as pursuing some exciting initiatives discussed earlier this year to address core economic development priorities. Under the Sunbank opening, as we wind down the construction and testing phase of Sunbank, the office is working with partners for the official commissioning ceremony set for December 8th. As we celebrate this major milestone in Summerside, pursuit of carbon-free electricity generation. Details of the official ceremony will be released in the coming days, but we're certainly excited to share and showcase this mega project for the Maritimes, our city, and our commitment to the environment as we add more generating assets to our local grid. Under strategies, the office is putting the final touches on 2 strategy documents, GHG benchmarking and clean tech strategy, to be released later this month. Both studies will look to measure, shine a light on the opportunities, and set the course of potential action on our decarbonization pursuits. And the Community Navigator, the office is pleased to welcome Ben Grady as the new Community Navigator at Prince County Hospital. Ben takes over this position to assist our medical community leaders as well as our community at large to make connection between the medical services and the community. Ben's role taking over from the economic development is to act as the one window of support to deal with issues, developing proactive programs and support for existing healthcare professionals, locums, and new recruits, creating that 1 degree of separation, showcasing our jewel, the Prince County Hospital. That is the monthly report. The full report is in the package.
Thank you, Councillor Snow. Any questions for Councillor Snow? Moving on to Emergency Services and Communications, Representative Councillor Adams. I don't know if Councillor Adams reached out to anyone to read in her report. Don't think so, at least that I'm aware of. The report is in the deck, so it is there available for any members of the public if they want to look at it. I would be reading it through the... hard for me to be able to determine if there's anything that jumps out. We'll probably do is ask Councillor Adams to provide a more fulsome report, I guess, at the next meeting, or touch on anything that we maybe should draw our attention to. And last up, Community Services and Tourism Representative, Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Service Department kept busy during the month of October, with planning well underway to execute two major events that we witnessed take place at Credit Union Place, with the CCAA Women's Soccer Nationals and the World Under-17 Hockey Challenge. Furthermore, it was another steady month in the Aquatics Department during the month of October. Over 1,100 people attended aquafit classes. Swimming lessons also started, with over 200 participants taking part in the first wave of lessons. The Dolphin Swim Club held a swim meet with 150 participants at the Confederation Bridge Aquatic Center, and the Bronze Cross course put on by our Aquatics Division staff was ongoing with 9 people through the month of October. To the same extent, it was a busy month for the meetings and conventions. The Economic Development Association of Canada Conference was held at the end of September into the first week of October. The Maritime Chess Festival was held over the Thanksgiving weekend. A craft fair was held. PEI Office Immigration had a job fair. The Nurses Union, the Lifehouse fundraiser banquet, and many other regular bookings took place, for a total of over 59 convention rentals. In addition, October was a busy month for active living. In the Dome, the adult sports social was successful and wrapped up during October, and they're looking forward to offering it again next winter. They also hosted a Haunted Dome family event, and Haunted Dome Scare Night took place with hundreds of participants in attendance. The first youth multi-sport program was also hosted with great attendance, along with the first ever movie night inside the Dome, which was also a great success. Finally, members of our Sports Entertainment Tourism Division attended the SPO-Hawks Conference in Ottawa, Ontario from October 11th to 12th. The conference brought together sport hosting professionals from Canada and the United States for an exclusive invite-only gathering, and featured some of Canada's top talent in the industry. Professionals working in the sport hosting industry had the opportunity to tackle difficult topics, having proactive discussions and discuss different approaches when it comes to bidding and hosting sporting events. Our staff had the opportunity to tour other event hosting venues and meet with national sports body professionals to build on future events and bids. I'd like to thank Director J.P. DeRoger for this report. And that's it, unless there's any questions.
Councillor Snow?
Just a comment, speaking of that conference they went to, I think, without a doubt, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of us share this, there's not too many municipalities that can host events better than we do ourselves. So we could probably go out and do a lot of teaching on how to host and bid for events, and every time we host an event, I'm always impressed. Obviously biased, but I think we do second to none in the event hosting, and the impact that has in our community is far-reaching. So thank you to the Community Service Department for all the hard work.
I just wondered, did you have anything that you wanted to add about the Yuletide Village? Or do you mind if I do? Do you have anything there?
No, I don't. You go right
Okay.
ahead.
Simply because by the time all of these other things happen in the very busy Community Service Department, we're going to be hitting into the December month. So I just wanted to point out that through the fire department, there's definitely going to be a Santa Claus parade, and the volunteer firefighters put that together every year. And that's going to be taking place, Santa Claus parade on Friday, December 1st. So it's always seen as a very well-attended event. And thank you to our fire department and Chief Ron Enman, as well as the Yuletide Village is going to be set up at Memorial Square Park, and that's under the umbrella of community services. And again, there's a whole connection in the downtown core, and it's starting to become a really important gathering event for families and people. So I just, before it happens and all is over, just want to make our general public to be aware of it. It's free. Please come out and join your council and our residents. It should be a good time. Thank you.
So I would just like to thank Councillor McColman for bringing that up, and also for Deputy Mayor Snow's kind remarks. And I always had, long before I got on council, a pretty good idea of what went on in Summerside, especially out at the Cup, and what the staff out there did. But, you know, after actually for the last year, basically, of watching it and getting to know a little more about what they're doing, it is an amazing facility with some amazing people, and they go hard at bringing stuff to the city, and they do a great job. So I'll make sure I'll pass on the kind words by Deputy Mayor Snow and the powers that be down there, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I did want to just jump back really quickly because I know people want to get out of here. It's 10 after 8, but I just wanted to jump back on Councillor Adams' reports because I do want to just note a couple of things. One, from the fire services, as of date, firefighters responded to 358 calls for the year, and in September there was a training of 233 hours. Councillor McColman reminded us that, yes, the Santa Claus Parade will take place on December 1st, and that was in there. Our fire department had 60 elementary students attending a lunch and learn program during Fire Prevention Week. Had 12 students come to the fire hall at lunchtime, ate barbecued hot dogs, and brought lots of fire prevention knowledge back to their classes and families. And I can say I walked past the fire hall and seen kids at the entrance and talking to our firefighters, and it's a great community touch point. Members of the department also visited 7 of our schools and presented checks to each in support of their breakfast programs, and that employees at the City Hall participated in fire drill and fire extinguisher training during the month. And I wasn't there that day, I guess, so I didn't have to run outside. But I wanted to highlight that as well. On Tuesday, the John Howard Society hosted a forum here in Summerside with all the 8 organizations working to alleviate homelessness and support vulnerable sectors in our community. And Chief Ron Enman spent the entire day at the session. Without a doubt, our fire services, our first responders, and understand how important it is to be connected with our vulnerable populations. As well, Sergeant Dale Cornish spent the entire day there, and it was a really positive event with some good outcomes and discussions, but it was really made me feel pretty proud being the mayor, having police and fire not just show up and say a couple of words, but to actually participate and be part of it. I also did want to just, and I've been one of the ones who said we don't need to read everything, but I did want to read the Summerside Police Services because there's some information that we asked to sort of put in there, and it's good. So our new bylaw enforcement officer has been in place since the beginning of October. It's been enforcing parking and other city bylaws. Here's a brief update of the activities, as well as bylaw files presently held by police service members. Parking tickets issued, 58. Parking tickets complained about to the mayor, 1. Not going to name any names, but I did say I do not interfere in police or bylaw activities. If they have a problem with a parking ticket, they can bring it up with somebody else, but I'm not involved. Unsightly property complaints for October by bylaw officer and previously held files of SPS. Members, formal complaints received by bylaw officer, 5. Informal complaints, 13. Files opened by the bylaw officer, 18. Files resolved without an order, 6. Files resolved by an order, 6. Files transferred to tech services, 2 from bylaw officer, 1 from police services. Files in progress from the bylaw officer, 6. Previous files at different stages by police service members, 7. Some of these files will be reassigned to the bylaw officer for conclusion. So the bylaw officer, Gareth, is doing good work and staying busy. During the month, Constable Andrew Griffin and Dave Ellis did an internet safety talk at Athena Consolidated School with grades 5 to 8. The presentation was well received by staff and students. The next, these are information that we had sort of requested to come at these meetings. The new traffic section, and also, I'm sorry, I'm ad-libbing here, but I was at the Crime Stoppers lunch when Sergeant Cornish received his Officer of the Year award, and had a really good conversation with our police services about this particular topic, and they felt that there was some really good things happening. So, here's what it is. The new traffic section has been up and running for 10 months, and I'd like to provide an update on the success of the initiative. I'm comparing stats from 2023 to 2022 for the same time frame. In 2022, there were 756 tickets issued plus 116 written warnings. In 2023, the traffic unit in place, there were 1,593 tickets issued plus 627 written warnings. So that goes from 756 to almost 1,600, and 116 to 627 in the course of the year. The number of traffic complaints received by police services has been greatly reduced since the inception of the traffic unit. We've been receiving positive feedback from the community regarding the increased enforcement. Our staff have attended a meeting with invested partners to discuss options moving forward and how we can assist homeless in our community, as I mentioned, and further meetings will be discussed at another time. But the main one there, again, is and we talk about this a lot in terms of traffic, speeding, parking, what are the solutions, lights, cameras, action, and it seems to be action and enforcement. There's no better way than to slow down speeding traffic or to stop people running stop signs than to have our traffic enforcement unit out there. And I personally can say I have had fewer complaints as the traffic enforcement unit has been writing more tickets. So it's not as though people know when they're doing something wrong. And it seems to really be working, so kudos to the whole crew, and we'll continue to see the developments. So I think that is it, unless Councillor McCollum, yep, Councillor McCollum,
I
yeah.
just, in the comments that you were making on the bylaw officer, the last point about previous files, some of these files will be reassigned to the bylaw officer for conclusion. So I'm just wondering, when we as councillors receive emails or calls from our residents in the various wards, we pass them on to CAO or whatever, then they're assessed. So I guess what I'm hopeful for, so our residents know that we pass that information on, that as they're reassigned, it's a process. They can't just deal with it absolutely right away. I know sometimes we do receive emails and people become to the point where they think, well, what's happening with it? But I don't think maybe people realize there's so much work involved in what area is being assessed. So I'm hoping with the bylaw officer, some of those things will also become a bit faster and we're not caught in the middle so much.
Yeah, absolutely, and see 18 cases opened and 12 resolved, and as well, the comments or concerns can be directed directly to the bylaw officer, but the bylaw officer also can be proactive, and has been. So that's the idea. Councillor Glenn?
Can I give a quick update on Seniors Initiative?
Sure.
The turnout for the the November 30th event, the Night of Remembrance at Trinity, was expected at 75. There was over 155 people there. The food bank room was filled to the rafters. I was never so happy in all my life. The church service on the 5th, there was 375 people there. The food room was filled again to the rafters. It's almost empty again though. So a lot of good feedback, and a lot of people said, I hope this program continues.
Thank you, Councillor Gallant. I think we do as well. Any further comments, questions from council? No. With that, council's going to move into an in-camera session on human resources. This is council only. This is a new sort of to us. We're going to have a quarterly in-camera council session on human resources to have a quick little discussion. So we'll just do that now, and then we should be out of here.